Okay, so one of the most fundamental building blocks in JavaScript then is the JavaScript function. So here's where we can declare some variables, we can store some data, we can work with some of those data types that we mentioned previously. We can work with strings, we can work with numbers, all these sorts of things. So does anyone know how to create a function in JavaScript? I know some of you do. Anyone being shy? So we've got a keyword. We've got a keyword called function. Then we have a function name. So you can choose a name if you wish.
And then you open brackets, something level, I can't remember what it is. Or you
Yeah.
close brackets.
Yep, so let's leave it blank for now. But we need to have some parentheses after our function name. Then what?
Open curly braces.
Open curly braces.
And as whatever you want the function to do, that's when you start typing.
Exactly. Yep. So this is how we set up a function in JavaScript. So think of a function just as a reusable block of code. Yeah? So it starts with a keyword. We then have the function name. In here we can pass in various values or arguments as they're called. And inside of these curly braces, that's going to be our function body, or just whatever code, whatever function, whatever task we want our code to perform. So for example, if we wanted to have a function that gave a welcome message to people, we could name this function welcome. We could make this function actually return something. So if we want to return a value from a function so we can use it later on in our code, we can use the keyword return. And then we're going to return one of those data types that we spoke about. We're going to return a string or a number. In this case, it's going to be a string, right? We want to say something. We want it to be a message. So there's numerous ways of writing strings in JavaScript, but most familiar, I guess, to speakers of English is just double quotes, right? We say things in quotation marks. So I'm going to use them to begin with. So if I want to say, hello, welcome to Kadiri in here, I can just do something like that. My punctuation, my grammar is not very good, but hey, that's fine, right? We can do something like that. Whenever you're running code in DevTools, we won't cover why in this workshop, but just make sure you wrap it in curly braces as well. This will prevent redeclaration errors. We're keeping our code local. You don't need to worry about it for now, but just make sure anything you write in DevTools you wrap in an outer set of curly braces as well for now. So just to go through this code, to recap, we've created a function, we've called it welcome. When we run that bit of code, we want it to return this value. Hello, welcome to Kadiri. So if I ran that code now, is it going to say, hello, welcome to Kadiri, or do we need to do something else? We need to invoke it. We need to call it. Yeah, this is just a function declaration. We've just stored this in memory for later. What we need to do next is we need to call the function. And that's as simple in JavaScript as just writing the name of the function, which we put up here, and then using these curly braces to call it, to invoke it, to run the bit of code inside the function. I'm very lazy with things like semicolons as well, so the guys on the boot camp can please pick me up on that. Yeah, they're not mandatory now, but they used to be in JavaScript, so it's good practice still to put semicolons at the end of each code statement. So a return would be a statement, an invocation would be a statement. If I run that now, so if you're in DevTools, you can run the code by pressing Control and Enter, or by clicking down here on this little play icon. So if I do that now, let me just clear the console. So it should pop up with the console. And you should get the message, hello, welcome to Kadiri, spat out in red. So all we've done is returned the value inside of our function. So that's pretty cool. That's how you write functions in JavaScript. But usually we need to make them a bit more dynamic. They need to cope with more than one use case. So this function, all it's ever going to do is hello, welcome to Kadiri. Well, I could have just written that, right? I could have just typed that out as it is. I could have just put that in my console. Hello, welcome to Kadiri. Sorry, my mistake. In quotes. And that would return hello, welcome to Kadiri. So we're not doing anything new at the moment with this function. Save it or run the code. To run the code. So there should be a little play icon there on the right hand side. See where it says Control plus Enter with this triangle. Have you got that on your screen? So that would run your code, and then that should spit something out in the console to check your code, check the result of your code. Any issue? Sule, can you have a look? It's okay? Yeah? Yeah? Cool. Yeah, so let's make this function a bit more dynamic. Let's make it more powerful. So we've got Patrick over there, so I might want to welcome Patrick personally. Now, of course, I could write, hello, welcome to Kadiri Patrick, but that would only work for Patrick. I want this function to work for anyone in the group. Yeah? So what we effectively want to do is to say, hello, welcome to Kadiri, and then use someone's name, right? So does anyone know how we would make this function dynamic and pass it a name, pass an argument to this function with a name, with anyone's name defined?
We need to add variables, I'm not sure if
yeah,
variable, but
we need a variable. So you could do that by defining a variable outside. The modern way we define variables in JavaScript is with let or const. So I'm going to use const in this case. If you've seen var, that was the old way of doing it. Yeah, so try and use let or const now in modern JavaScript. And let's say we want that to be called name. And what was your name who made that suggestion? What was your name who made the suggestion? Say again? Villach. How do I spell that?
B.
Yep.
I.
Yep.
R.
Yep.
And A. Y.
Like that?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So I could create Villach's name as a string and then assign it into a variable called name. Yeah, that would be one way to do it. And then I might want to say, hello, welcome to Kadiri name, but I couldn't quite write it like that because I'll show you what happens if we run that. We get hello, welcome to Kadiri name. Yeah, so it's not recognizing here that this is a variable. It's taking it literally. It's literally thinking we want to print that phrase name. So we need to effectively tell it that name is a variable. There's numerous ways we can do that. We could have a string and then use this plus operator with name. That would effectively join those two things together. Shall I run this now? Does anyone see any issues with that? Yeah, go on. Yeah. So, good spot. So if I ran that as it is, look what we get. Hello, welcome to Kadiri Villach, with no space in between. Yeah, so what it's literally done is taken this string, which has no space at the end of it, and added on the name straight away. So good spot, and the way we could fix that is we could just add a space there. Then if I ran that code again using Control and Enter or my little play button, I now get the correct space in front of the name. So that's one way to do that, yeah? Yeah, that's fine. There are other ways to write strings in JavaScript. Probably the most modern way, and the way that we tend to use now, is using backticks. So a backtick is a little symbol that looks like a part of a tick going backwards. I don't know, but it's usually located either on the top left of your keyboard, or I think bottom right for Macs. Who's got a Mac? Bottom right, bottom left. I'm not sure now.
So Windows is top left.
Windows is top left, absolutely, and Macs is. A backtick, just like a diagonal line, like an inverted comma almost. Nope, that's a backslash. This one. Bottom left, I think you'll find it, under the tilde, under the curvy. Depends on the Mac still? Yeah, okay. This little symbol here, it's called a backtick, and it's just like a small backtick. Yeah. So if we've all found that now, hopefully, I think we've already got a suggestion here from the two guys next to me. They're talking about wrapping it with the $sign and stuff like this, I heard, yeah? Yeah? Could you explain that to the group, or you want me to go?
Sure.
Yeah?
So, now it's, you could just add the variable name directly into the string. So sort of remove names.
I'll just put the old version up that we had as well, and then we can do a direct comparison. So previously we had something like that. Single quotes and double quotes are exactly the same in JavaScript. It doesn't matter what you use, single or double. So previously we had something like that. We had to manually input this space, stop the string, then add something else on it, add a variable onto it. Instead, we just want to say this whole thing is a string, but I want to include a variable inside of that string. And how would we do that?
So before then you'd have $sign.
So we can tell JavaScript that something is a variable by putting a $sign and then
wrap name within curly braces.
And then wrap name inside of curly braces, like that.
And that's it.
And that's it, right? We've got a space here, so it's going to give us a space correctly. I'll comment that out. If you ever want to add comments into your code in JavaScript, you can use 2 forward slashes, or the shortcut that I use is, well, it's going to be Command / on Mac or Control / on Windows, so I can just toggle on and off comments like that. Got ES10 now.
Oh, is it?
Oh, not quite. This year we have ES10. Yeah, June we have ES10 now. But you can see that still worked, right? We've still got hello, welcome to Kadiri, Birak. Yeah. Okay. Awesome. Why do we have what in double quotes? This one? Yeah. Yeah, yeah. Sure. So single quotes and double quotes are equivalent in JavaScript, and the double quote is just JavaScript's way of telling you that this is a string. It's a string literal if it's inside of the double quotes. Yeah. Cool. So there's a couple of ways we could have got that name into the function. So we've just defined it outside, and then you access that variable directly from inside a function. But there's another way to do that process. There's another way to get information inside of functions so that we can use them. Let's say I just called this new user instead. And we tend to write variables using Camelcase in JavaScript. So that means the first word has a lowercase letter at the start, and each new word has an uppercase letter, like a camel. Yeah, each word creates a hump. So if I call that new user, but I still wanted to use the variable name, I could write name in there. So this is making a new name variable, and the value of that variable will get assigned to whatever I tell it to get assigned to. So does anyone know how I'm going to pass a value into the name variable inside of my function? I'm calling the function here. I want to get information inside of it when I call it. So I could actually pass a name directly in there. So let's say instead we actually did want to welcome Patrick. It's going to invoke the welcome function. It's going to assign the name variable equal to Patrick, because that's what I've passed in here. And then I can use it in my function. So do we think that's going to return hello, welcome to Kadiri Bire, or it's going to, Birak, or is it going to say hello, welcome to Kadiri Patrick? Hands up for Birak. No one? Hands up for Patrick. Anyone? Patrick says Patrick. That's nice.
Only one Patrick or two in that case?
Should be never about
Well, you wouldn't get
Probably one. Would be right first on the project.
No, because Vera is only a new user, wouldn't it? So you wouldn't get Vera.
Yeah, so one issue that people are saying is we've got two return statements. Does anyone know what happens when we have two return statements? Yeah, exactly. It returns the first value and it will ignore anything below it. So we'd only get one result. But the question is that going to be... So effectively, we're just going to get that. Is it going to return Patrick or Birak for the name? Patrick. So let's run it. Definitely Patrick. Yeah, well done. So we've defined this and we've stored it for later, but we're not passing it in to the function at all. We've passed in a string to the function, so that's what name becomes. If we wanted to use Birak, we could either put his name directly, or is there another way to do it? What else could we pass in? We could pass in new user, because we've already created a new user with the value of Birak, so we could just pass in a variable instead. And that would also say, welcome to Kadiri Birak. Yeah, the last one. Yeah, so running that again, that's what we get. I'll get rid of that now and uncomment that, because that's the more modern way to do things. Yeah. Any questions about that process, or do you want to play around with the example some more so that we can deepen our understanding of it? Over to you guys, whatever you want. Silence. I'm going to have to break you up into smaller groups to get you working together.
Sorry, what was a list of names? So I don't know.
Yeah,
5
so
names.
yep. So you want to use a list of names, yeah? So if we said users, we mentioned at the start a data type for lists. What was that called? Array, yep. So does anyone know how to create an array in JavaScript? An array literal? Nope. So we can use square bracket notation. So we just put a square bracket there, and we separate each name in that list with a comma. Who else wants their name in there? Who else we got in the group? Someone shout their name. Who's sitting next to me?
Grisa.
Second.
Grisa.
Small.
C-A-T.
Oh yeah, Krista. Krista. Walter always likes getting his name in lights, so Walter's up there. That'll do, right? We just work with 4 names. Okay. So how would we now get that information that I've called users into my function? You need to specify the index once we're using it, but let's get the information inside of my welcome function first. So I can just pass in users there, right? Say again?
Shouldn't you use the brackets?
Oh, you just want one user?
Yeah.
Which user do you want then? If I want Krissa, what number would I use? 2? Why 2?
Because the arrays are starting from 0.
Okay, yeah. I know, but some people in the group might not know. Like he doesn't know this. He's an instructor and he doesn't know this. So
I wasn't sure if it's like this here.
yeah, so it depends on the language, but in JavaScript we use zero-based index. So that means to access the first item in the list, we would have a 0 in here. If we had a 1 in here, that would access Patrick. And if we had a 2 in here, that would actually access the third element, which is Krissa, yeah? Okay. So there's quite a lot going on here. So we've said we want this element passed into the welcome function. We then want to assign the value into the variable name. And then inside of our function, we're going to return hello, welcome to Kadiri with that name variable, and the value of that, of course, was Krissa. So therefore, we welcome that user in particular. You're welcome. It's a little bit advanced, but I think we'll do maybe one last example. How would we write a function to welcome all of the users? Yeah, we should be able to loop over it in some way. So I'm going to pass all of the users into my function. And I'll name my function welcome all, because it's slightly different now. So what sort of loop are we going to do? Do a basic for loop. Okay. Someone start me off then for what? For second. Okay, I'll use let. Is that all right? Yeah. Let what equal 0? Let I equal 0. Is that what you want? Okay. Yeah. When we stop. Yeah. So when are we going to stop? Use. So how about if I call that names instead, right? So is it going to be users or is it going to be? Oh, it doesn't matter in this case, right? Okay, all right. Let's use users.length. So we want I to be less than or less than or equal to? Less than. Good, yep, because users.length will be 1, 2, 3, 4. So dot length is a property that every array will have based on the number of items inside of it. And in this case, we've got 4 items inside of it. But remember, we said we started on 0 on the 0 index. So we've effectively used for index in this case. And we want to loop over 0, 1, 2, and 3. We don't want it to go up to 4. We never want I to reach 4. Otherwise, nothing would exist in the array at that position. Next, what do we need after that? I++. So we want to increment our loop. We want to go to the next item in the list. So we'll start at 0, then we'll do Patrick, then we'll do Carissa, then we'll do Walter. Yeah? Okay, good. So that's set up our for loop. Inside of that, what are we going to do? Are we going to return or? Hi, how are you? Should I make it easier and just log it for now so that we can see what's going on? Would that help? Rather than using a return? So for every time going through our loop, we could say, hello, welcome to Kadiri. And then what am I going to use inside of there? Rather than name this time, we're going to use... So what value is changing in our loop? It's I, right? So we're going to need an I in there somewhere. Is it name or it's names now? Yeah, the plural. Yeah. Will that work? Should we run it to test it? Look at that. Hello, welcome to Kadiri, Birak, Patrick, Carissa, and Walter. Yeah? So our for loop effectively went through each item in our array because the loop ran 4 times when I was 0, 1, 2, and 3. And it logged into the console that message with names 0, then names 1, then names 2, then names 3, which is why we got our 4 different logs there. Yeah?
So you know, like certain languages, you have to do system.out.println or just print equals or something.
Mm-hmm.
In JavaScript, we just use the speech marks, and it would print the text. Or?
It's not quite the same, like doing echo or doing printf or
The system of print, you say?
Yeah, in
Huh?
Java, you have to do.
Yeah, no, the equivalent to system of print is right line. Isn't it that?
Oh, okay. But that's not used in JavaScript, right? Yeah. Yeah.
System of print are more like right. I was the same when I moved from JavaScript.
Yeah.
We don't use system of print. Even in Java, if you want to do console, you don't use system of print. It's completely different things.
Right.
With console alone, you play with the console, and with system of print, you just print string. Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, you're not gonna make a program with consoles and logs.
Yeah.
This is just for testing purposes.
I think because the group's grown quite a bit, then we're going to split up into smaller groups so that these guys can help you out a bit more on a personal level, rather than that was probably really easy for some, and for others it's already going a bit over their heads. So, yeah, it'd be nice to have a mix of abilities anyway in the groups, so just sort yourselves out into groups of about 4 or 5. We'll have a maximum of 4 groups, and we'll move over to the training platform. So I'll just show you one example on the training platform first. Let's have a look at if-else statements. So hopefully everyone can see that. So this is our training platform we use here on the boot camps. Basically the setup is, on the left hand side, we have the name of a function and invoking that function, yeah, the same way we did with the welcome message. It's the name of the function and then anything inside, any data inside that we want to pass to that function. And then we want to write the body of the function to pass these tests. So when we pass in the number 34, we want the answer to be no. Am I old? No, you're not. You're not over, I think the criteria is over 100. Let's have a look. If age is greater than 100, yes, you're old. Otherwise, no, you're still young. Yeah. So we can see here that we're getting an age variable passed into our function. So if I just returned age here, what would the value be of age in the first case? Just shout it out if you know it. So we've passed in this value of 34. That's gone here. If I return age, what's the value going to be in this first case? What do you say?
Null.
Null? Why null?
No. So what's the question?
So what am I going to return from this function? I'm returning age. What is the value going to be when I invoke it like this? Am I old? 34. Yeah, 34. Yeah, so when I invoke it like this, am I old 103? Well, 103 gets passed into the function and assigned to this name. So age equals 103 in that case. And I just return that. So in this case, if I invoked am I old 103 and returned age, I would return 103. This case, 71. This case, 100. Yeah, if I ran that, if I evaluate our code the same way we've been doing in DevTools, this time we've got a little blue button rather than the play. And we get that. You returned 34, you returned 103, blah, 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 blah. Yeah? That's not what we wanted to return. What we wanted to return was a condition. If you're older than 100, then return yes. If you're younger than 100, return no. So our job is to write the bit of logic, the bit of code, to solve that problem. Yeah, so we'll do this first one as a group, and then we'll get in smaller groups and solve a few of these problems together. So how would I write that logic? The clue's at the top, if you can read it. Oh no, it's been cut off the screen. It says if else at the top of my screen.
If more than something.
Yep, so in English we might say if older than 100, print yes, and if younger, print no, something like that. Yeah, so that's not JavaScript code, that's just logic. Yeah, it's what they call pseudo code. Are they solving the problem or they go off on something else? Yeah. Huh? Yeah, I was going to do one together and then, yeah. Cool, so I'll show you the solution to this one and then we'll break up into the small groups so that everyone gets a chance to do something, yeah, even if you haven't got your laptops. So we can use an if-else statement in JavaScript. So rather than saying if older than 100, I'm going to say if age is greater than 100. And inside of that, I'm going to return yes, the string yes. Okay. And then our other option, so if we've got an if statement, we have an else statement to capture the other case. So else, I can do return no. Right? So that's how we'd write that logical statement in JavaScript. If age is greater than 100, return yes, else return no. We can evaluate that code up here on the right. So whoever's in charge of the laptop in your group, make sure you evaluate the code up there in the top right. And we can see it's all gone green now. Yeah, so that's what you're looking for. You're looking for this left-hand side to go green. The result is correct. And what did I say right at the start? I said I'm really lazy with semicolons. Look what this platform's done for me. It said we're missing semicolons. So it actually tells us what line we should put them on as well. So after each statement in this case, yeah? After the return statement and after the other return statement. We have got two returns here. I know we said we can't have two returns in a function before, but because we've got a condition, only one of these return statements is ever going to run. Yeah, so if age in this case is 34, this if condition will be evaluated to false, and it will skip whatever's inside of that and just move down to the else return statement. Yeah, so if I evaluate that again, no evidence found, all green, so that's what we're looking for. Cool, let's break up into groups, and each one of the helpers will take a group, and we'll just run through topic of your choice, really, yeah, on beginner training. Yeah, so, awesome. Any questions before we move on?
I have a question.
Yep.
When I write, not here, but the previous one.
Sure.
When I write to welcome, when I invoke to welcome, there is just one input, the last one input.
I think I'd have to come around and look at your code. Yeah, is that right? I'll come around and look at your code now just to clarify that. I don't fully understand what you mean by...
For example, here, if we invoke welcome, one name, and then welcome another name, when I run it, it just gives the output of the last one.
Maybe the less than sign, you made it greater than. Have a look at the sign.
You have to see the call.
Yeah, I think we've got to see the... I can't tell from that description. I'll come around now, yeah? So let's break up into groups. Got another question? Yeah. So, you forward can I work? Yeah? Is that alright? Make sure everyone can see a laptop.
Or should we just bring the chairs here?
So,
Yeah.
So we do a meetup, two of them. In terms of the content of the meetups, that changes from week to week. So this one in particular, the intro, we run maybe 3 something like that. And then we have a intro to React session as well, the JavaScript library. Which will also be interesting, yeah. So that tends to be a little bit more advanced, because obviously you need a few more fundamentals, but it's still designed for beginners to get your head around components, creating working a little bit with props, perhaps. Stuff like that. Yeah.
Is 2 even?
Return 2 times what that is. But the thing is, it's already
How did you find it? Some fire escape. Sorry, 1 second.
And I was just walking around in some,
Is even?
yeah,
Well, is even?